Hey YouTubers, it's Charlie. This is going to be my Gotham finale video. A lot of crazy moments. I think it's in a good position for season 2. Hopefully they'll course correct on some of the things that didn't quite stick the landing, but I do think it did a couple things really well this episode. But just careful for spoilers if you haven't seen the episode yet, starting with top 5 moments. Here we go. Number 5, the Penguin tries to kill Falcone. The mob war between Maroni and Falcone has been going on for 2 weeks, and the Penguin has just been sitting on the sidelines watching it all play out. Penguin catches Falcone in a moment of weakness, but Gordon steps in. It leads to one of the oddest pairings that the show has had, but I think one of the most fun ones. Gordon is a character by himself, hasn't been super interesting. I think he works best when he's paired with the crazier characters. It's like when you think about the characters in the context of a comedic duo, it's like you have a straight man that reacts to a crazy person who tells all the jokes. Gordon, not so great with the jokes, that's where the other characters come in. Some of the pairings have been a little odd, but I think they can play with that in season 2. They can start pairing Gordon with other crazier characters. The more outlandish, the best. And now that Barbara is full on crazy, their scenes actually might be palatable. They didn't have any chemistry on screen, and I love the way the show is sidestepping them now. On to number 4, the city officials in Gotham back Maroni over Falcone. So this is going to play out more in season 2. The shady but legitimate business people of Gotham think that Maroni can do a better job of keeping the peace than Falcone. It's all about the devil you know. There were several characters that entered into situations like that. Loeb is still around. He gave Gordon out, told him to hit the road, so they're not outright waging war on each other. But I think they're going to deepen that relationship in season 2. You'll see a lot more Gordon versus the shadow elements in the city. People like the evil Wayne board, although that's kind of getting into Bruce territory. There's a lot of different kinds of Batman villains. You have mob villains, you have evil businessman villains, and then you have outright comic book villains. Raise your hand if you think that Barbara turned into a comic book villain in this episode. But on to number 3, the Catwoman drinks the Kool-Aid. There was this running plot line that I think didn't quite land about characters trying to overcome programming. Catwoman seemed like she got a little crazy. She seemed a little more in the driver's seat than Butch and Barbara did. Like she was a little more conscious of what she was doing. But I like the idea of Fish Mooney taking advantage of her, offering her the promise of a family and a home, but secretly twisting their relationship to get Catwoman to do whatever she wants to do. Taking advantage of her the same way Penguin takes advantage of Butch. Maybe some scenes got cut out, but we can deal with it more in season 2. Catwoman trying to figure out where she belongs. Is she going to be Team Gordon? Is she going to be Team Penguin now that Penguin's the king of crime? We do have to address that crazy warehouse crowd scene when they walked in. It's like all those Fish Mooney characters had spent the past 2 weeks getting their hair and makeup done. Like they were getting ready to mount a revival Broadway production of West Side Story. It's like, yeah, we're in the middle of a war, but we're going to accessorize like we are going to be on stage. This is really where Gotham strays into campy territory. Sometimes the show switches tone and it seems a little uneven. If you remember way back in that Arkham episode, it opened with an actual stage play. I think sometimes the show tries to visually invoke stuff like that, and I think it's a lot of fun, but it needs to be a little more consistent if it's going to do that. Gotham is a little bit more open in that it's campy and ridiculous at times, but sometimes it still feels like it takes itself a little too seriously. And you can't really do that when you have scenes like this, when characters look and talk like this, and the set looks like this too. Like how convenient is it that they all have that bar there to be strung up from? So I'm not going to criticize that too much. It just, it feels like they were going for almost like a music video framing in terms of the way they shot the scene. But if you're going to do that, then you kind of need to do the whole season like that. Visually, the show needs to stay consistent. On to number 2, huge win for Batman villains. Penguin dispenses with Fish Mooney in a very Batman, Tim Burton, Ace Chemical, Joker type scene. That was a lot of fun. Weren't you just waiting for that after the credits scene where the hand rises out of the water? The bad news about that is that Jada Pinkett Smith said that she only signed a contract for 1 season, so it sounds like they might not be bringing her back in season 2. Like they're going to be pushing the Penguin as the only big crime boss. Like they're done with this big mob war stuff. It makes sense that they don't want to rehash that from season 1 and season 2. But Nigma also almost goes full-on Riddler. I know it seemed like he was developing multiple personality disorders. The Riddler in the comic books doesn't have multiple personality disorders. He's very aware of what he's doing. I think they cut that scene in a really trippy way just to show you how he's like slowly descending into madness. But do not be fooled. It's not like he's gonna quit the police station in between seasons. He'll still be in there. He'll just start doing more and more crazy stuff. He's right on the precipice of becoming the Riddler. He just needs to commit to it now. And this whole murder situation with Miss Kringle is just like the thread that he's gonna start pulling on that'll unravel him. I really think that he was trying to talk himself into killing Miss Kringle, like trying to justify it in his head. It was like, well, she's gonna find out, so I gotta get rid of her. As if an answer to the rise of the Batman villains too, you have the rise of the Batcave. So we'll go down that staircase in season 2 and find out whatever's down there. It'll probably be just like a tiny version of the Batcave. It's really hard to pinpoint like where the show is in the timeline. It looks like it's in the 80s based on their car technology, based on the types of cars they drive around. So we might find some computers down there, probably just a bunch of files and evidence that his father was piecing together. It was kind of fun to see Bruce go into detective mode. You know, Batman, world's greatest detective. Now he's world's greatest detective in training. And finally, my number one WTF moment, Barbara goes completely nutter butter. That last scene where Leslie Tompkins overpowers Barbara and is like smashing her head on the floor and Gordon walks in all of a sudden, that was my most favorite moment all season long. It was so ridiculous, so funny. Sometimes you can tell what the show's gonna do based on the way they frame shots. So it's like the minute the camera left all that open space on this side of the frame, you knew that door was gonna open. Regardless of what you thought of Barbara's character this season, I feel like them taking her character in the crazy Harley Quinn direction is the best thing it could have done. Best possible outcome. You can use this to explain why her character acted the way she did all season long. She felt like she was hollow inside, and now we find out that she actually kind of is dead inside. During that whole conversation, that was about making her parents seem like terrible people. I don't know if that was really authentic, given that we know Barbara is crazy, so she could have been, falsely remembering a lot of that stuff. I think the show was trying to be authentic in that though. Like, her parents traumatized her in a way as a child, so it like slowly chipped away at her, and the ogre just kind of pushed her over the edge. It's like in Dark Knight, where the Joker pushes Harvey Dent over the edge and he becomes Two-Face. The ogre pushed Barbara over the edge and she's turning into kind of like a Harley Quinn character. I know there's a lot of questions about which characters the show is allowed to do. They're probably not allowed to do Harley Quinn, so she's just going to be a similar type character. Like, she'll probably head to Arkham. That provides our into Arkham, which allows us access to like all the other crazies that they might roll out, like the other new characters we might see in season 2. Like Mr. Freeze, we know that he is coming on the show, although he's probably not going to come out of Arkham. Here's my big question for you guys. What was your favorite moment from the episode, and how do you feel about what it did with Barbara's character? There's so many things that I feel like the show did wrong this season, but that happens in a lot of series' first seasons. That's usually the time that the writers take to get to know their characters. Sometimes it just takes a while to find voices. It's like the way people talk about The Simpsons' good run. It's like the first couple of seasons were kind of weird, good but weird, but then it really came into its own in its middle seasons before it jumped the shark after like seasons 8 and 9. So sometimes it just takes a little while. I think a good example of a show that's done a really good job from the start has been The Flash. Since we're entering the off season and they're already starting to work on season 2, what I'm probably going to do is transition to more movie videos, but I'll try and do some more Batman related bonus videos, especially like, Mr. Freeze, characters that we might see in season 2. If there's anything specific you guys want, just let me know. And don't forget, Grodd versus The Flash tonight. Be sure to subscribe to get that video. I'll post it after the episode airs. In case you guys haven't seen it, I actually did a breakdown of the trailer. You can click here to watch that, and you can click here for all my other Gotham videos this season. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Let's high five. I'll see you guys tonight.